And I think with that said, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Melinda. She could tell us more about what she's got going on and what we can look forward to in today's workshop.
Okay, let's see. All right, so thank you, Julia, for that intro on the museum. It's a really, if you haven't been to the museum, for those of you who are from out of the area, oh, that's what I wanted to ask. So if you can go into the chat, so if you're on a computer, if you go down to the bottom of your screen, you can press the button that says chat and type in there where you are zooming in from. Just let us know the city and state. I know some of you are from out of the area and would love to see who is on the call here. So we've got a lot of folks from California, Virginia, Richmond, Virginia. Let's see, Charlottesville, California, Alabama, Oklahoma, Nevada, Florida, Alabama, Delaware. Wow, people from all over. So for some of you, this is pretty late in the evening. Albany, Salinas, Union City, Michigan, lots of locals, some folks, Kansas. Let's see, Washington. Wow, we've got a lot of states covered here. So great. And maybe if you could also just type in there, like, what are you hoping to get out of this series? So Julie and I are going to be on here for 6 Fridays, and we're going to let you see a little bit about what's going on at the museum. And I'm going to show you how you can nature journal these items. And these are tips that you can use for nature journaling at home. So, oh, in Tasmania, Australia. Cool. So we've got the Southern Hemisphere too. This is amazing. So this is going to be really fun today. And we've got Canada also and Alaska. Oh gosh. Okay. Some more Canadians. This is really great. In Nebraska. Okay. So we've got some folks that are new to journaling and some techniques, some basics. Okay. So some people who are California naturalists get better at journaling. Education and practice. Okay, so this gives me a good idea of what you're looking for so that we can focus on for the next 6 weeks. So if you can't come to all 6, that's totally fine. We are recording, so you can check it out later. There's also other opportunities to do nature journaling too. I think that Julia will be putting some links into the chat for both events that are coming up for the museum and also some other nature journaling events that I'm holding too. So if you can't make some of the Friday night ones, there'll be some other ones that you can come to. Okay, so I'm going to, let's see, start here. So my name is Melinda Nakagawa, and I am a scientist, a naturalist, and an educator. And I have been a longtime nature journaler, and I actually didn't even know it was called nature journaling. When I first started, I was just writing my observations in a journal, mostly words and species that I was really interested in, and paragraphs about what I saw them do. It just, you know, I'm at heart a naturalist. And over time, I started to put pictures in there and started to get inspiration from other people who were nature journalers. And today I have come a long way. I journal every day, and especially since March, where we've had shelter in place, I have had the opportunity to really, really get to know my nearby nature. And so I hope that all of you get a chance to incorporate some of these techniques into your journal so that you can start to take in what's around you in a deeper way. All right, so I'm going to go over just a few briefly about what nature journaling is. So basically, how I define nature journaling is it's observing nature, it's recording what you see, and you're using words, numbers, and pictures. That's just the basic gist of it. And, you know, over the next 6 weeks, I'll introduce different techniques to kind of improve that so that you have a better sense of what to put on your page. But basically, that's all there is. And here's a sample of one of my journal pages from a live, watching some bears on a live stream. And so a nature journal page could be you know, anything that you want it to be. This is your page or your journal. And just a few samples here of different folks that are doing some nature journaling. You'll see there's a combination of some sketches or drawings, some labels, some words. Sometimes there's color, sometimes there's not. Sometimes they put, you know, some poetry and prose in there. Let's see. This is just a rundown of a few different kinds of ways that you can nature journal. You can learn about some plants in your garden by comparing them, drawing them, and making notes of what you see around you. You can have a theme. Like this one here is a bunch of different birds that I saw collecting materials in the springtime. So I labeled it nest making time. So you can observe whatever's going on in your backyard. So let's see, here's some more other people's examples of, you know, inspiration of what you can do for a nature journal. You can journal things that are on the beach, things that are living, things that are dead, things that are in your refrigerator, things that are in your backyard, things that are from photographs or from a field guide. All of these are helping us observe nature. So what we're doing with nature journaling is you're honing your observational skills and starting to look at nature more deeply. All right. So what we're going to be doing is at the museum, there is a really beautiful native plant garden, and they've been working on this for some time, and they have a garden that is really beautiful and peaceful to walk through. So if you just wanted to stroll through it, if you came to Pacific Grove, it's really peaceful. They have a lot of really great the structure. I think maybe Julia can put a little blurb about it in the chat, but it's an artistic structure, but it's this giant nest, and it's big enough that you can sit inside, and it's a pretty cool installation. And you'll see the sign for native plants of Monterey County. And right now is the end of summer. So the flowers that are blooming in there are kind of past their peak. So I went through with Julia and we looked at what kind of plants are there. And we talked about what kind of plants can we show you that are growing in Monterey County that we can highlight as an example for nature journaling. So we're going to hop right in and take a look. So this plant right here is called a Fremontia. So we're going to visit that in a minute. But first, we're going to start with just a few pictures of some native plants that are around. So we have some sage and California poppy, and this is in the height of the spring flowering season. And here's a view kind of from the nest looking back at the museum at their back doors. And there is a pollinator exhibit teaching folks that come to the museum. They have lots of school children and adults that come through, and talking about how you can help the pollinators in our local community. So the birds and the bees and the butterflies. And there are samples of different kinds of native plants. So wherever you live, you know, going with your native species is the best to help with the bees and the butterflies and the birds that come and use their nectar and spread their pollen. And so around here in Monterey, we have a few different species that we're going to go over. So one of them is the Seaside Daisy and the Hummingbird Sage. So those are two that we'll go into in a little bit more, looking a little bit more closely. So, you know, pollinators are really important. We are, let's see. We talk about, you know, how we can help the pollinators, and one of them is like keeping native plants growing and trying to have flowers that bloom all different times of the year, not just in the spring, but in the summer, fall, and winter. So check your local native plant nursery, perhaps, to find out what's going to grow the best in wherever you live. And yes, someone was mentioning the Master Gardener's course, right, is great to give you some more information about what is growing around here. So the intention for today is that I'm going to show some pictures of some native flowers and plants, and we're going to take this nature journaling focus. So I'm going to walk through how I would nature journal, and I'm going to share my screen with you. And let me just set this up so that you'll be able to see my drawing at the same time that we're looking at some of the pictures. Let me just switch my video settings here. Okay, so you should be able to see my sketch pad and the screen. Maybe give me a thumbs up if you can see both. All right, and here's the trick is if you're on Zoom on your computer, you'll go to the top where it says, I think it's view options. If you click the little arrow that's next to view options, you can select side-by-side mode, and that's going to give you the best option for viewing both the photographs that I show and my sketchbook. So if you do side-by-side mode, you will see a little gray, like two gray lines that show up, vertical lines that show up between the two pictures. And I think let me make sure I'm spotlighted. So you should see my my notebook and the Seaside Daisy. And if you mouse over that, you can slide the slider to the left and right. You know, try doing that. And you can make the Daisy picture bigger, or you can make my sketchbook bigger. And for those of you who are on an iPad or device, you'll need to tap the screen and swipe between the two screens because there's not a way to get them all together right now. Okay, so this is just a picture of the Seaside Daisy. Let's see. And in its natural habitat. So it grows along the coastline, and it's happy in the sea wind and the salt spray. And they have these beautiful lavender petals that bloom, and they bloom between April and October. And so I've got a few close-up pictures. So if we were together and we were outside nature journaling together, we would probably go up to the plant, and I would encourage you to get a close look and touch it, and maybe rub your fingers on the leaves. You know, what does it feel like? And, you know, smell it and see if it has a fragrance. So we're going to get all of those senses into our nature journal. So the first thing you want to do with the nature journal is you've got your piece of paper or your journal, and get your pen or pencil. And the first thing you want to do is put what I call metadata, and that is information about today. So you can put today's date, August 21st, and make sure you put the year, 2020. And then I would always put the location I'm at and the subject matter I'm looking at. So today you can put that you're nature journaling at the PG Museum of Natural History. And I'll just give you a moment to do that. Okay. All right, and as far as what journal to use, you can use whatever you have. You know, my philosophy is just keep it simple. So you don't need to go out and buy anything fancy. You don't need to have a fancy pen. Start with a pencil and a piece of paper. And if you have something that keeps your papers together so you don't get them lost, that's even better. I like to use a mixed media paper for my journal. Right now I'm just using sketchbook paper. So this is like pretty thin drawing paper, and that's what I'm using for today's example. My regular journal has a little bit thicker paper, but you can experiment and see what works for you. But for today, whatever you have is totally fine. So I usually start with the date, and then I don't have metadata for you, but if we were outside, we would put maybe the time of day. Oh, let's put the time. Today for me, it's about 5:49 p.m. And you could put the time in your time zone. And we're going to be journaling native plants today. And today I'm going to start with a plant called the Seaside Daisy. And we see these all up and down the coast. They have these sunflower-like flowers. So with nature journaling, we're going to look carefully at what we see. So if you've never drawn one of these flowers, it's totally okay. We're going to draw what we see. So what I'll start with is, let's see, maybe I'm going to draw some of these leaves. So I'm going to mouse over this little cluster here. So I think I'm going to draw one of these little clusters of leaves. And my style is just to draw like a gesture sketch. So that means that I'm not drawing with a whole bunch of detail, and I'm just going to draw some simple lines. So I'm going to start with like looking at the shape. So I'm looking at this kind of, let me get a pencil out. Where's my pencil? Here we go. And the leaf cluster is kind of in this circle, and I'm going to just kind of outline loosely, just really light lines. You know, thing about drawing, if you're not comfortable with your drawing skills, don't worry. Drawing is not a talent. It's a skill that can be improved with practice. So the reason why I did the circle is just because I want to, the flower cluster is kind of in this circle shape. So now I'm going to draw in some of these leaves, and I just drew them really lightly. I'm not sure if you can see. Let me see if I can zoom in. Okay. All right. So I am going to pencil these in, and then if I kind of like what it looks like, then I'll maybe go over a little bit darker. So I have these overlapping leaves, and they're kind of this lance shape. So I think what I'll do is, as I'm drawing, so the three kind of key sentence starters that we like to use in nature journaling to help us deepen our observation of what we see is, I'm going to write it here. So it's and maybe you can write it on your page too. I notice is one of them. I wonder is the next one. And it reminds me of is the third. So I like to, maybe you can write the I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of on the top of your page. And then as we're going through each of these flowers, think about what you notice and what you wonder and what it reminds you of. And when you see these things in nature, say it out loud. Because when we say something out loud and we're noticing and writing it down and we're hearing what we're saying, you're using a lot of modes of information, ways of gathering that information. And so you're going to remember it better. So this is, nature journaling can help improve your memory as well, memory retention and memory recall. So I'm going to draw the leaves here, and I'm going to write like they look from here, they look like oval shaped leaves. So whatever you see, just go ahead and write them down. And because this is a photograph and I can't take the leaf and hold it in my hands, this is the best that I'm going to get. If I were able to take the leaf and hold it, then perhaps I might be able to, I'll just do a sketch. I think it probably looks like this. And, you know, have the leaf, right? And I might write, this is the front of the leaf, and then maybe do another on the back of the leaf, and then maybe write what I notice, right? Maybe it has fuzzy hairs, maybe it's, and I'm just gonna write in here just to give you ideas. So maybe it's shiny. Is it shiny? Is it fuzzy? Is it spiky? What color is it? You know, and so I'm gonna say it's, you know, looks like a light green. Light green. And look at the front and the back of the leaf. Sometimes they have different colors on different plants. So I have the leaf clusters. So light green leaf clusters. And then, and I'm seeing, I'm going to do a close-up of the daisy. But, all right. And then I'll do, I think I'm going to do this big one here on the right hand side. So kind of block out with a circle. So with drawing, you want to just use a light touch with your pencil. You don't have to make hard lines. And so I just lightly make a circle of where all those petals are. And I'm going to make another light circle, kind of giving anchoring, like where is that center of the flower. So I see the center of the flower is about here, and then the outward petals, actually it scoops in like this because it's foreshortened. This is in front of us. And then I will draw in, so this has lots of petals. So we'll just kind of draw in some of these petals. Oh, and I want to make sure I get this little fly in there. So I'm going to put a little fly. And the petals in front I see look shorter because they're pointed towards me. So you can draw them shorter. And so drawing is, in our nature journal, is about just drawing what you see. So you don't have to know how to draw any of these, just sketch what you see. and kind of green in the center. So I might say, I notice the center is green. So I'm going to say center is green and yellow. And I see that these around the edges are open. Okay, so what I notice on this, let me see if I might be able to make this bigger. Oops, sorry. Go back. Okay. So right in here in the center of the flower, the outer edges are what's opening up. So if you've seen a daisy or a sunflower before, these disc flowers are all tight and closed in the middle. But I notice that the ones on the outside edge are opening up. And if we were in person, you can hold that up to your eyes and get a closer look and maybe draw a zoomed in image of that. So let's pretend that I have the flower and I'm going to zoom in. So I think what I'll do is draw a circle and then I'm going to go like this. And this is like a zoom in of this little edge. And I'm going to show that they're like little flowers. So I'm showing that these flowers are open and then these are closed. So closed and then this edge open. And these are the disc flowers. Okay. Let's see. And then we'll just kind of show the petal. So this is a really cool technique of zooming in so that I don't have to draw all of this detail on the whole flower. I can zoom in on just a little section. So this is a zoom in on the center. So I'm sharing with you some little techniques that you can use in any of your nature journaling. So the zoom in and zoom out is a really useful technique. And then I noticed that there's this green fly here. So I'm going to note green fly. Oh, and I have some questions about this. Do you guys have some questions? What comes to mind when you see this green fly? I'm going to say, I wonder what it's doing. I wonder what kind it is. I wonder, is it native? And it's green and metallic. It's really cool. And with nature journaling, I encourage you to ask lots of questions. So this is how we start to get to know what we're looking at, by observing deeply and noticing. Write everything down that you notice and write down what you wonder about it. And perhaps maybe write down what it reminds you of. You know, does this flower remind you of anything that you know? It could be another flower that you know that you're familiar with. It could be something else. Like right now, it just reminded me of like ruffles. I'm not sure, like one of those ruffly collars, like in the Elizabethan era, you know, it just reminds me of this like ruffly collar. So if you have anything like that, then write it down. I might say the lavender petals remind me of a roughly collar. Using bullet points is another way to organize information. So I might write down some things that I notice and just put them here, or things that I'm wondering. I'm noticing that the flower is like really flat. It's not like raised up. So I'm gonna do this side view of this flower. Ooh, you know what this reminds me of? This shape reminds me of a peanut butter cup. So it's kind of got like the round and kind of more flat than it is raised. So whatever these things remind you of, just write down whatever it is, and it doesn't matter, you know, whether it's right or not. There's no right or wrong, and you don't have to find the answers to it. And there are no dumb questions, right? So when we start asking questions, we stimulate neurons in our brain so that we're actually starting to remember more about this, and we'll get more exciting questions. So, you know, someone is asking, you know, like, gosh, I didn't know flies were pollinators. Yeah, you know, there's something new to learn every day that we go out into nature. So these are some things that I might put into my nature journal. And I like to use some color. So maybe I'll just throw some color on here. You can use, I'm going to do maybe this, show the stem and part of the leaf here. That's what the leaf looks like. And you can use colored pencils, or you can use crayons or markers. I like to use watercolor. So I'm gonna use some watercolor, and I'll just, you know, you use whatever it is that you're comfortable with and you like. And I'll just show you how I might add a splash of color to this. So I'm going to maybe start with the a little bit of shadow around this, the Seaside Daisy. So it's a little bit darker. Oops, it was a little too dark. Okay, so just a little bit of, still too dark. It's always a good idea to test your colors on the side of the page before you blob them onto the, okay, I think that'll be okay. All right, and then I'm going to put a little shadow inside my little leaf cluster. So I'm just looking at the picture and looking at where the dark spots of the leaf clusters are, like inside the spirals and kind of like inside edge. And I'm just gonna tap down a little bit of gray to give it the shadow. And then I'm gonna add color over the top. I like this technique because it's just easier. I'll show you, it's a really easy, quick and easy way to add some depth into your picture. Okay, so right in here. All right, now I'll take, let's see, it's kind of a yellowy, kind of a golden yellow in the center. Oops. And then there's a little bit of green. There's a dot of green in the center. Oops. And where else can I use this green? I think this is gonna make, this leaf is a little bit yellower on this plant. And then so those of you who are wondering, I'm using just watercolor and what's called a water brush. And it's a plastic water-filled brush with synthetic bristles. And you just fill this water with water, and when you squeeze it, you let the water will come out the end of the tip. And it's a really fun and portable tool to use. So then I'm just gonna splash on some color here. And let's say, I didn't put any detail on these leaves, but let's say I saw this in the field. So then I'm going to paint them and add the detail that I see on there. All right. Okay. And then the lavender, let's see if I can get that color going. It's a really pale blue lavender. think that's close. Okay. Oh, wait, there's more lavender right here. And yellow. These were darker yellow, and then what's a lighter yellow in the center. I think my brush is getting clogged. I might have to switch brushes. Okay. So basically, I like to draw what I see in a simple manner, and then I point out all the details that I notice about what I'm seeing, and then I like to add splashes of color at the end. And I'm not, my focus on this page is not a botanical illustration, right? So I'm not putting in, you know, every wrinkle on the edge of the leaf, or every little dot in the center, every, you know, shading around every single petal. That I would do that if this was an, you know, more of a, maybe a close study of like really examining the flower. But for this purpose, for this nature journaling, I like to journal out in the field, in like with the plant. And so I'm pretending like these pictures that we have, we're actually all outside together. And I'm walking through how I would do this outside. So I do quick sketches, throw on some shadow, add a little color. And then really the nature journal page is about using words, pictures, and numbers. So maybe I might say, maybe I look at this and I try to estimate how many petals there are. So that's estimation is a way of using numbers. So let's say I'm going to look closely at maybe this flower that we drew, and I'm going to count 10 petals roughly. Let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, this little section is 10. So I'm going to estimate how many petals are on this flower. Oh gosh. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, maybe. I'm going to say I estimate there's about 160 petals. So maybe I put that in here too. Estimate 160 petals. That's a lot of petals. And maybe if this was not a protected flower, and it was some, you know, a flower that was in my garden, that I could pick one, or maybe pluck a petal out and draw the petal close up and see what that looks like, because I bet the petal would have its own shape too. So you can, like, you know, take one out and then you can say this is the petal. What are some other things? Oh, so we got to paint the green fly. We want him. All right, and he's a really bright green, so I'm just gonna do that. And actually he has a little bit of black in him too, huh? His head. Okay. All right. And yes, how big are the flowers? A very good question, Andrea. I am going to take a ruler and I'm going to measure. This is about actual size. So let's say that we were in the field, and this is a big ruler so that you can see the numbers. And I'm going to, it's a good idea to use metric so that it can be comparable to people in the rest of the world. So I'm going to turn my ruler over to the centimeter side, and I'm going to go across and say, okay, this flower is from edge to edge is 4 centimeters. So one way to do this is I'm going to draw these bounding lines, and I'm going to go, this is 4 centimeters. And maybe I'm also wanting to measure the leaves. So I'm going to measure the leaves, and let's say these were actual size, and I'll say this is 4.5 centimeters. And then by drawing these lines, I'm showing you what I actually measured, right? So let's pretend if, you know, this leaf had a stem like this, right? Then I might measure only this section, or I might measure the whole thing. But if you don't note what you measured, then the person looking at the page, or maybe you looking at the page later on trying to compare it to something else, won't know what you had actually measured. So nature journaling is about observing what's in nature, not using what we already know about it. I mean, you might still kind of use some of it, but we really try to focus on what is actually in front of us. Because sometimes what's in front of us might not jive with what the natural history books tell us. Like, for example, you know, you might see an unusual flower shape that is not described in any of the literature, in any books. Well, if that's the case, I want you to draw what you actually see, right? Because nature is showing something to you. So yeah, that was a good question. This is called a Seaside Daisy. So I'm going to go back to the slide with the name, and you can copy the name of the flower. And so I think maybe I'm going to put it down here, and I'll say this is a Seaside Daisy. And if you want to put the botanical name, which is always a good idea, if you know what you're observing, sometimes we don't know what it is we're observing, and that's totally okay. So I'm going to put in here Erigeron glaucus. Okay. And I want to go back to the identification. We don't have to identify everything we draw, right? So scientists and naturalists for hundreds of years have been observing phenomenon and plants and animals and things that they didn't know what the name was, right? And they learned about that thing by observing and journaling, just like what we're doing today. All right, so this was one flower. So we've got the Seaside Daisy. And then the next one we have is the Hummingbird Sage. So the Seaside Daisy grows out in the open near the ocean, full sun. This is another plant that's native. The Hummingbird Sage is a type of salvia that grows mostly in like high shade, like so maybe under an oak tree where there's like dappled sun, but mostly shade. And let's see. Okay. Oh gosh, it looks like we've got a lot of folks here. Andrea, it's nice to see you here. Oh gosh, you couldn't get in. All right, we're gonna have to expand our meeting capacity for next time. Okay, all right. So I'm so glad that you guys are here. You all that got in were meant to be here, so I'm glad that you're here. So hopefully you are learning a few tips about nature journaling. And the best thing with learning something new is to repeat it and to practice it. So we're going to go through this with a second group of flowers. And when we get off of this meeting, between now and the next Friday, I want you to practice doing this with something in your yard, or maybe something in your field guide, or something online. Maybe even outside in your yard would be great because you can touch it and hold it and smell it. Okay, so the next plant that I want to talk about is the Hummingbird Sage, and this is one of my favorite plants. So when I go out when I take students out into nature, this is one of the plants we use to make tea. Hummingbird Sage tea is really delicious. So I'm gonna flip my journal over. We're gonna start a new page, and I'm gonna start with let's see, I'm gonna put the title. I think I'll just put Hummingbird Sage up here. Oops, Hummingbird Sage. So I know what it is today, so I'm going to put the name. So going back to not knowing your plant, you know, not knowing your plant is actually really fun because it's going to make you look a little bit more closely at all the little details. So yes, to answer your question, it's recording. We're going to post it we will, Julia and I will talk about where that will be, and we'll put that out on the website to let you know where it is so that you can review this if you missed it. And Emily, I'm glad you're having fun. Let's see, so Hummingbird Sage. So this is kind of a wide angle view of what it looks like. It might grow in this big patch with a whole bunch of clusters of green leaves and all these stalks that are sticking up. So I think maybe what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a zoomed out view to give you perspective on what's going on. So I might make so here's a tip that I like to do is I like to make these bounding boxes when I'm doing a landscape or like a you know, zoomed out view, just so that I don't end up spilling over and using a whole page for my landscape, because that's not the purpose. I just want to show a little bit about what does it look like so that I can remember how it was growing. So I'm just going to focus on a few of the plants, and I'm just going to gesture sketch. So gesture sketching is just getting like the general shapes of what's going on. So it doesn't have to be like perfect leaves. I'm just showing that these are kind of oval lance-shaped leaves, and that there are these flower spikes that are growing, right? And they're kind of in these clusters. Okay, so that's what the plant looks like from afar. And this is a diagram, right? It's not like exactly what it looks like. It's a diagram. And then I'm going to go and do a close-up of, I have another picture here of the close-up of the leaves. So this is a picture taken from above, looking down at a little plant that's growing. And this one doesn't yet have a flower, so it's a little earlier in the season. But let's say that they're all mixed in this little patch of hummingbird sage that we came across. And we're going to draw these different views of this patch. So we're going to walk up really close to this little cluster, and we're going to draw this out. So maybe I'll just put it over here. I'm going to, gosh, what do you notice about this when you look at this cluster? Do you notice anything about like the way, the pattern that it's growing in? Yeah, roughly fringed edges, opposite pairs. I'm thinking it's like 90-degree angles, like a cross, like the way that they're growing. So I'm gonna like lightly block in with my pencil, just light ovals of where these leaves are before I kind of commit to drawing them. Just so that like I kind of like the shape of what's going on. So this one, they kind of overlap, right? The opposite. They're opposite of each other. Maybe it's about here. And so I notice that they're really roughly edges. And if you can't see the detail, don't draw the detail. So don't worry about it. Don't make things up. So I can't see how roughly the center ones are. So I'm just kind of making it kind of squiggly. I see these stems. And it's squared off in the bottom, I notice. And then it's kind of roughly all the way around. That. And it's got a long stem sticking out here. And kind of like an arrow shape. And if we had this leaf close up, shoot, I have one in the garden, I forgot to pick it. What you can do is, right, we're doing like a zoom out, or zoom in, excuse me. So this little circle means I'm going to focus on like a magnifying glass. I'm going to take this little section of leaf and I'm going to magnify it. So this is the leaf, and I'm going to make this up because I can't remember exactly what, but they're kind of like this wavy little edges, right? So this is, the edges are ruffled or whatever you see, and just describing it. And then I notice there's a center vein that is slightly indented. And maybe there's texture in this leaf. So I'm seeing like there's all these squiggles. Like these are like a network of, again, I don't have the leaf in front of me, so I'm making this up, but in the field, if you had the leaf, you would draw exactly what you saw. And when I do this detail, see how like complicated this detail, I know it's got like this network of veins. If I just draw it in this little section, then I don't have to draw it in the whole thing. All right. So again, we're looking at this plant from this nature journaling naturalist perspective. So we're going to just write down everything that we notice. So maybe I'm going to make a list here. I'll say, I notice the leaves are paired. I notice the center leaves are very small. And lighter green. So I want you to throw out everything you know about this plant right now and just come to it as though you've never seen it before and describe what you're seeing. I like to talk about this idea of beginner's mind. You know, we want to come to nature with the mindset of like, I'm here to learn. Like if I was the expert about hummingbird sage, if I knew everything that there was about hummingbird sage, came with that attitude, then I'm not going to see all the detail and all the amazing little things that this plant wants to show me. But if I come with this open attitude of like, I wonder what's going to go on here. Gosh, this is so cool. Then the plant, you're going to notice some things in the plant that you would not have noticed otherwise. I'm noticing from this view right now that there's a really cool crease. Does anyone notice this in the larger set of leaves? There's a crease that goes kind of parallel to that central vein. So it looks like it was like an origami leaf, like it was folded. So ooh, I think I'm going to note that. So I'm going to write, let's see, on this leaf, and I think I'm just do the center vein and kind of goes up to the top. All right, how am I going to do that? Okay, so I'm just going to draw an arrow from that line there, and I'm going to say this is, I'm going to call it a mountain fold because that's what it's called in origami. How many of you have done origami before? Have you ever read the instructions, right? So okay, here's a piece of paper. When they tell you to fold your paper like this is a mountain fold, right? It's raised up like a mountain. And this is a valley fold, right? It dips down like a valley. So you can use whatever terminology you already know. So that word just popped into my head. So that's why I called it. This is a mountain fold crease along the leaf, right? And it's on both sides. So that's pretty cool. I don't see it so much on this leaf, but it's pretty prominent on the third pair of leaves. Okay, and then I might say there's lengthwise crease along third set of leaves, and maybe it's on the fourth ones too. I don't know. I wouldn't know until I was there. The other thing I know about sage is if you pick up a sage leaf and rub it between your fingers, you're going to release the aromatic compounds, and it's going to smell wonderful. I don't know if you've ever smelled any kind of sage plant. Go and rub your fingers and smell. It's going to be it's going to smell really wonderful. And this plant, you can pluck the leaves and put them in hot water and make a delicious tea. Okay, so, and we're running close to the end of the time, so I'm gonna hop on over to this, the flower, and maybe I will just do a quick sketch of the flower spike. And we're just kind of doing like a diagram just to show that there are these, it's like got these clusters of flowers. And let me go this way. So this might be a zoomed in view of what's going on here. And if you don't know the parts of the plant, that's totally okay. Just draw what you see, right? Someone noticed that there's these green leaf-like structures here. I mean, that's a really great observation. And then these parts of the flower are kind of a brownish burgundy color. So don't worry about not knowing the names of botanical structures. These kinds of things will come with time. Really what's important is just to use your observational skills and just draw what you see. And I'm noticing there's hairs all up and down the stem. So I might say there's fine hairs along the stem. And then burgundy brown with magenta flowers. All right, and then I might write down what it smells like. Maybe other observations, you know, maybe while you're sitting there drawing it, some bees came by, or butterflies or hummingbirds. Actually, hummingbirds like to visit this. So maybe when you're drawing, a hummingbird might come by, and then you might make a note, oh, a hummingbird came by and was visiting this, you know, and make notes about that. So nature journaling is, you know, you can put all kinds of things on the page. So as you can see, it's not just about making a pretty picture. In fact, that's not the goal in nature journaling. The goal in nature journaling is for us to deepen our awareness and really see what's in front of us. Write down everything you see and all the questions that come up, because this practice is deepening your awareness, and you're going to start seeing things in nature that you've never seen before. Right? Some of the common things around your house, you are going to start honing your observational skills. You're going to start to be able to, it's like waking up your superpowers of observation. You're going to see things that amaze you. And so keep an open mind, keep practicing. Drawing skills come with practice. It's not a gift or a talent. It is something that everyone can can learn. And we can do this by coming together and drawing what we see, practicing. And my demonstration is just to give you an idea of it. It can be simple. I tend to get caught up in the detail. Before I started really nature journaling, I was the one who would get trapped in drawing every single little flower realistically with tons of detail. And then I would just get so tired and drained that it had too much detail. Well, what's really been a great practice is really stepping back and drawing things like a diagram. And then what I would do if I had, you know, another 10 minutes is probably splash on some color, just like we did with the Seaside Daisy, and then really just put detail on the close-ups. That way I'm not spending my whole nature journal session putting detail on the whole page. I want to make sure that I'm getting all of this information about what do I see, maybe measure the leaves, right? I'm going to measure the leaf, maybe measure how tall the flower spike is. What does it look like to me? What does it remind me of? And, you know, add all of those things. So key things to remember: I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of. And this is just about observing nature and drawing and noticing what you see. Okay, so if you are not feeling like you are happy with your artistic skills or drawing skills, don't worry, keep coming back, and it's going to improve. So real quick, I'm going to stop this and get back to the screen so I can see you all. Each week we're going to have a different topic. So we will have, I think it's monarchs next week. I'll share, and Let's see. Okay, so hopefully you've all had an opportunity to do some sketching. I know an hour goes by really fast, but you can all, now that you have a few of the foundations, what you can do is go tomorrow or the next day, while this is still fresh in your mind, take a look at what we did together, the Seaside Daisy and the Hummingbird Sage, and then see if maybe there's another flower or a plant that's in your yard. That would be best if it's in person. So, you know, go outside. If it's too smoky where you live, like here in California, take a few photographs of it, or maybe cut a stem and bring it in, and then spend some time like smelling it and taking a look at it, writing down what you notice and wonder and what you question. And Machi, oh, she has some leaves in front of her. Yeah, right? Oh yeah, a flower. Exactly. Take that and draw it. And don't feel that you have to draw all the details, because this is not about an illustration, unless you want to do an illustration. Nature journaling is about really asking all kinds of questions, right? It makes it more fun. And you don't have to answer those questions, okay? I'm giving you permission. Ask the questions and don't look up the answers. Just kind of sit with it, observe a little bit more deeply, see if you can find more answers just from the observations. All right, so I know it's 2 minutes past 6:30, and I know that I want to keep on time. I know you probably have other things to do, but I've had so much fun with you guys. I know the time went by really fast. So if you want some other opportunities to nature journal with me, check out the events page. I think, let's see, I think that it was in the chat. It's sparkinnature.com/events. If you go to sparkinnature.com, there's events, and if you go to the museums events page, you'll see the other Friday activities that are going, and other really cool things that the museum's doing. And if you go to my website, and you'll see different opportunities for you to do some more free nature journaling with me, and some other opportunities too. If you have any questions, send me an email. My email is on my website, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll see you back here again next Friday for another topic, but we'll practice the same kind of foundational techniques that we've practiced today. So with that, I want to thank everybody here, and I'm going to be cheering you on as you guys practice your nature journaling this week, okay? All right, is that good? All right, awesome. And I'm gonna unmute everybody, or maybe Julia, can you do that? Unmute everyone.
I think I can. Yeah. If okay, unmute all.
All right. So say goodbye, hello, whatever, and we will see you next Friday.
Bye.
Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Melinda.
Thank you very
With the
much.
kids this time.
Great to
Go to
see
bed,
you.
Ray Bonto.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye,
Bonto back
Raybonto.
there.
Bye.
Isn't this
Great, thank you.
all over the world, Rich?
Really enjoyed it.
So
Yes.
exciting.
Oh,
Oh,
there's
great,
Ray
thanks.
Bonto.
I don't see a
Come
way.
back. Come back.
Ray
again.
Bonto,
Yeah.
the
And if you'd like
9-year-old.
to support more nature journaling,
He's up with his daddy at 2:30 in the morning.
yeah, really. I know, Ray Bonto, great to see you. Yeah, he comes to a lot of sessions with us. He's really great. All right, thank you so much, guys. It was really great to see all of you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, hi, Anne. And Lisa. Oh my gosh, Celia.
And Chadwick. I feel like these people are my friends.
Yes, we
Classes
are
with me, they
friends,
commented
right?
on my art.
Yeah,
Have
and
fun.
Raybonto. I mean, I think this is what's so cool, is that we're creating this online community, when if we were in person, some of us would never see each other, right? We would not see each other. So I feel like this is a gift, this opportunity that we can be on the computer and looking at nature. So I want to encourage everyone to go into your nature wherever you are, and pick a plant or something that when you go outside, you know, something that's calling you and saying, hey, look over here, and go walk over, and then see if you can draw it, you know, and maybe it just wants to show you its mysteries, right? Only for you, only for your eyes. So for all of you, and go do this with your families, right? If you have children or if you have brothers and sisters or parents, do this together. Like the more time we spend in nature, it's going to help us, especially right now with a lot of technology that's going on. Like I'm even feeling that, right? There's a lot of screen time, and we can balance that out. We can, I really feel like being in nature is the antidote to the kind of bristling energy that we get, right, from being on the screens for too long. Okay. All right. Well, I don't mean to keep you guys here, but it was really, really good to see you. Oh, is that Hope?
Hi.
Oh my gosh, Hope is here too. Yeah, awesome. So yeah, guys, we'll see you maybe on Sunday for free nature journaling, or back here again next Friday to sketch some monarchs and other winged critters.
See you then.
So
Thank
excited
you.
for
All
that.
Bye.
Bye,
Yeah.
Celia. Bye, Machi. Hi, museum
Melinda.
folks.
Yeah, bye, Machi.
Thank you, thank you.
Yes, yes. Thank you. All right. And I think, let's see, I'm going to save the chat.
Okay, and I think the chat should save with the recording. Usually does. Thanks, Amelia.
Yes.
So
yes.
sweet.
Oh, Amelia. Yeah. Thanks for being here. So nice to have you here. Hey, Amelia, did you do some sketching today? Do you want to hold it up? I'd love to see. Okay, hold on. Let me spotlight your video. Oh, look at that. Oh, and you use the zoom in technique. Awesome. And look at all that detail. That's so great. Yeah, you've got all the techniques down. Great. So what you can do this week is to practice what we talked about, right? Can you remember that, right? The I notice, I wonder, it reminds me of. Awesome, awesome. And I'd love to see what you have to show us for next week. Okay, Amelia, nice to meet you. All right, thank you guys. Thanks for being here. You guys have a wonderful weekend, and we will see you when we see you next.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.